Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Mike, your host of Thursday Morning Live. Thursday Morning Live is brought to you this week by My Core Intentions. Hey, I just want to mention there's a whole bunch of things going on this month of March, and you may want to take a look at and see some of the things that might best serve you. First of all, on March 3rd, we're doing a passive in multifamily investment webinar. It'll be a 30-minute webinar with some Q&A at the end. If you have an interest, go direct message me, email me, and we'll send you out the link to register for that. Also, March 8th, in celebration of Women's Day, my team, and I'm just so grateful for them, had a chance to put together a Women's Day event that we're going to spend 3 hours the morning of March 8th just celebrating women and women entrepreneurs and women in real estate and just some interesting things we'll talk about on that morning. So that'll be from 8 till 11. You can direct message Diana, my assistant, at admin@mycoreintentions.com. And then March 24th, full day boot camp. We are going to talk about multifamily fundamentals, those basics. You know, when I first went from real estate sales, which our guest this morning is a powerhouse real estate salesperson. When I first went from real estate sales into multifamily, I didn't know anything, right? And it was this place where I had to learn a whole new language, a whole new terms, the way of doing business. And we're going to talk about those fundamentals. So hopefully, success leaves clues, right? So we'll help you get a little jump start. So March is a big month. So hope to see you at somewhere over the next couple of weeks at one of the events. Hope that you get a lot of enjoyment and a lot of fulfillment from it. All right, this morning, our guest, and one last thing, please make sure that you're following us so that you get notified every time we go live on Tuesday or Thursday. On Saturday when we do Multifamily Unplugged, we're always popping up, whether it's on social media, whether it's on Clubhouse, but look for us, and we're always bringing relevant content to the marketplace. So, hey, my guest this morning, I'm excited, longtime friend, Herb Strauss. Herb is a real estate broker owner of an office in Palatine. I'm very excited about Herb being on the show this morning. He's a longtime real estate investor, got a lot of experience. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, but let me bring Herb in. Herb, good morning. How's it going, buddy?
How you doing, Mike? What's going on today on this? Starting to get a little snow again today. I guess spring is farther away than we thought, huh?
Yeah, well, you know what? It is only like the last couple of weeks of February here. So one more week of February. We're in March. I think by mid-March, right? Usually things will straighten out a little bit.
Maybe we'll start seeing 40-degree weather every day.
That'd be nice. That'd be nice. Herb, how's things going? Why don't you, here's what I'd like you to do. If you would just kind of tell the listeners a little bit about you, give some background, some context around what you're doing and what you're up to these days.
Well, right now, my goal is to sell people investment properties. Right now, I think it's one of the best times to do it. The outlook for rental properties has never been stronger than before. In some areas of the country, we're seeing 20 to 27% growth on rental income properties as far as what the rents are moving up to. I'll give you a quick example. In 2017, I bought a property in Round Lake, a townhouse, never been stronger than before. And now it's some areas of the country, $2,000 a month 5 years later. Never would have I thought to see that kind of growth. The biggest problem that we see right now is that there's a lack of inventory. So for every one person, for every one property, there might be 20 people trying to go after it. I actually looked at a flip property for one of my investors 3 Saturdays ago. They were doing an open house 12 to 2. I got there at a quarter to 12. There was 5 people there. By 5 after 12, there were 75 people in line. I had never seen such commotion over a single property, and it was in Palatine.
Hey, is that on an investment property or is that just on a regular sale
No,
residential property?
no, it was a property that needed a full rehab.
Okay.
I mean, this house was a complete disaster. There wasn't a room in there that you could have left anything in.
You know, you and I both been doing this for a long time, and you know, I can remember always being tough competition in the northwest suburbs, where you know, you would go out to look at a foreclosure, and by the time you got back to the office or back to your car to write an offer on it, you had five, six offers that you were competing against, and the bidding wars are crazy because they're all bidding. You know, the pricing has just gotten so high that you know how do you make any money? And I can't understand some of these investors that overpay so much.
Here's the problem. Everybody wants to believe they can do. Let's take it into two segments here. Let's look at rental properties versus flips. Everybody believes that they can do a flip cheaper than somebody else. Here's the problem. Because of our economy the way it is, they don't realize they're paying 20% more in labor.
Hmm.
Materials have gone up in costs. Villages are behind on issuing permits if you're doing it the right way. If you're going to go out and get a permit. And the biggest thing that people do is, let's say, Mike, you're going to do the physical work yourself. You're devaluing your own dollar of what you're worth per hour.
Yeah.
I've seen people go in and go, well, I can do this in 80 hours. No, you can't. You got to be realistic of how long something's going to take you, and what's your personal time worth. You we aren't. If you sell a property and you made 10 grand, but you worked on it for 4 months, basically you're working for less than minimum wage. I'm
Right.
sorry, that to me is not a good return on your money. It's not.
So so how do you avoid that? And better question, how are you, you know, how are you going and finding property for your buyers to buy today? That those off-market deals, those deals that are, you know, sitting in the alleyway that really aren't in the sights of everybody.
I'll give you an example. I had an attorney colleague of mine tell me that he wants a four flat. He owns one in Skokie. He wants another one. I literally got on the phone. I pulled up the last 3 years in the multiple listing service of all the realtors that have sold multi-unit buildings in that area. And I just started calling them saying, have you spoken to anybody recently that was talking about possibly wanting to sell? I've got a buyer. You don't even have to put it on the MLS. You won't have to disrupt tell the owner they won't have to disrupt their renters with 27 showings. Let me have a one shot deal to show a property. So I made over 60 phone calls. It was exactly last Monday. And this week I've already shown three. And this afternoon I'm showing two. And Saturday I'm showing two more. Not one of them is on the multiple listing service. They're all private transactions.
Nice. So so you are able to find some good off-market product.
Mike, Mike, let me tell you something. Anybody who wants to work, and that's the key, who wants to work, you know, if a buyer wants an agent that's going to sit on his hands and wait for a listing to pop up in the multiple listing service, I'm not your person. I'm the guy that wants to be aggressive and find you the property. I want my clients not to have to bid against 10 other people. I want them to be able to buy the property at fair market value if I can, not 30, 40, $50,000 over list price.
Yeah.
Then I can look them in the face and say, I'm bringing value to you.
Right. You know, you kind of alluded to the fact a few minutes ago, you started going down the road about where inflation's at and where it's headed. We're starting to see, you know, the cost of goods go up. We've got really supply chain constraints that are tightening up. You got gas that's going up now with the you know with the war that broke out this morning. We're probably going to see gas prices go even higher. We've got interest rates going up. What are you looking at from a standpoint of being an investor, being a you know a businessman in the marketplace to offset that inflation that's happening around us right now?
Well, you got two factors involved. First of all, let's back up. We cannot change the inflation factor. It is what it is. I actually listened to this morning, I was watching CNBC, and they had Susie Orman on there this morning. And I'll be honest with you, I happen to agree with her. I'm not happy about it. I think in the next 30 to 40 days, we could see $5 a gallon gasoline. It could
Yeah.
happen. You
Here
know,
in the Midwest, not just on the West Coast, where typically
no,
you see higher prices, right?
I
But
think we're going to see it in our own backyard and quicker, way before the summer.
yeah,
And exactly like you said, because a lot of it, look how much oil and petroleum comes from Ukraine and Russia. Is that gonna be a problem? Of course it is. But here's the thing. Let's just take any property. You know, an investor looks at a property for one reason. What is my cash on cash return? And right now, are they going to pay maybe a point higher than they would have a year ago in interest? Yeah. But if it's giving them an 8 or a 9 cap, and they're getting a solid return on their money, let's say the property 2 years ago was 1700 a month, and now it's 2 grand. There's renters out there looking. I get phone calls every day. What do you got? What do you got? What do you got? And right now, it's the least amount of inventory I've ever seen, even in rentals. But here's the good part. There's actually a good part behind this. If
okay,
you look at the history of rentals, so you can have 2, 3 years in a row where they go up, let's just say 20%. In the history of rentals in the last 10 years, I have never seen rents go back down in price. I've seen rents stabilize for a year or two where they get flat. So if you were getting 2 grand, it might be harder to get 2050. Um, but they don't go back down. And then when they go flat for a year or two, then all of a sudden you see a 10, 12% increase again. So as an investment, your return is going to be solid. Most investors don't buy a rental property and say, I want to flip it in a year. They're long-term holders. So if they buy it in 2022, they probably still have it in 2027 unless something happens in their personal circumstances to change that. Now, I've had people sell a single unit to buy a two flat. I've had somebody sell a two flat to buy a four flat. People do move up, and then a lot of times what they'll do is what's called a 1031 exchange to avoid paying taxes on the profit of the property. You've been involved in 1031s when you were in business. You know what
yep,
it's like, and that's a huge tool for people. And that's where I differ from most agents. I have a solid understanding of that process and how it works, and I've worked with numerous clients doing 1031 exchanges.
yeah. It's interesting. What's funny is we were talking a couple of minutes ago too about supply, right? Supply and what's on the market and how do you go find supply. I was a listing agent, and you'll be able to relate to this, but I was a listing agent. I prospected every day. I just called people, asked them if they were selling their house. I think that, people miss that. I went to an event last night, and there was a guy who spoke who sold $300 million worth of real estate in 1 year. Because of pricing, because of technology today, because of the way of doing things, I think it took me 8 years, 6 years to sell $300 million worth of real estate.
I
You
agree
know,
with you.
pricing today though, you can do that kind of stuff, but how do you do that? How do you get there? You have to pick up the phone. You have to be active. You have to be in the marketplace. We're in a relationship business, and unless we're building relationships with people, we don't get that long-term benefit.
You know, you mentioned relationships, and that really is the key. I sold a 24 unit building in Zion last year, and right after I sold it, I got probably within a month a dozen phone calls from other multifamily realtors that that's all they deal with is multifamily, asking me if I had clients for what they had as what's called a pocket listing. A lot
Mm,
of realtors that are in that multifamily and commercial arena never list a property on the multiple listing service. They hold it as what's called a pocket listing, and they try to sell their own product. And I've built up a lot of relationships as a result of doing that large transaction. Where now, year ago, I was beating the phone trying to find them. Now they're calling me, texting me, and emailing me. I probably get 10 emails a week from those type agents telling me what they have in their personal inventory.
Well,
Um,
Herb, I know some multifamily investors in the Chicago market that would look for that type of opportunity. Would some connections and referrals be good for you?
Oh, that would be outstanding. Matter of fact, I just heard, you mentioned Chicagoland area. I just got a lead yesterday on two multifamily unit buildings in Logan Square. So if you've got somebody for Logan Square, let me know. I just got those literally yesterday afternoon. It's funny you mentioned that.
Okay, so I I'm not a buyer in Chicago. I'm not a buyer in this market. I want to be where population growth is increasing, rents are increasing as a result of job growth and household income growth, and I don't see it in this market. I just did a post this morning on social media that said, learn about the several markets this year will exceed 25% rent growth in this year alone. And I just said, find out what markets they are. Call me for a list. But these markets are seriously growing. I mean, Bradenton, Florida, right now, this year alone, there's a report I read within the last 30 days that said this year alone we'll see a 38% rent increase. You know what? That's a crazy number, probably unrealistic. But when you look at the 10 markets right now that are projected to exceed 25% rent growth this year, why not at least go there and be able to underwrite your deal at a 6 or an 8% rent growth and hit that mark and be a here, really be able to fulfill the business plan.
It's funny you mentioned that area. I'll give you you could do the same thing in other areas in Illinois, not quite to that degree. But here's the mistake some investors make, and I've counseled many of my clients this way. Let's say that because there's no inventory in an area, and you could let's call it name this tune, name your price. So there's nothing available in a particular area. So you say, okay, I'm going to get 2,200 a month, even though it's probably only worth 1,800. Well, you're better off only asking 2 grand, because now you've got a little leeway. If next year the market is flat, but the rents were at 2,200, you've got room to only go up $100. You're still in the money. You look like a hero with your renters because they're still renting under market value. And let's face it, what's really the goal of an investor? You want to keep that renter as long as possible in the property. The reason for that is every time you have a turnover, that's costing you money.
Right.
Turnovers cost you money. What I've been counseling all my investors, and I've got not a single investor not following it. It used to be in the beginning, you'd start somebody, if they'd say, I want a 1 year lease, you'd say, fine, take it, grab it, let's go. I don't let any one of my investors start with anything less than a 2 year lease. I have increased their profit by over 25% because they're not rehabbing it after 1 year, cleaning the carpets, repainting the walls from the chairs, scuffing them up. They're not replacing a countertop that might have gotten scratched or burned. And when people sign longer term leases, they do a far better job at keeping the units clean because they know it's their home for 2 years minimum.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. You got to look at the long term effects, not the short term.
Yeah, that's for sure. Boy, that's spoken well. And I'm sure you've made a lot of investors happy with that. Herb, what
Myself
do you
included.
yeah, right. Hey, Herb, what do you see as the biggest challenge in front of us in 2022?
Well, it goes back to what you said about inflation. Where are interest rates going to be for a home buyer? Where are interest rates going to be for an investor? Let's
Mm,
face it. If rates go down 1%, basically, if they go up 1%, the average buyer loses $25,000, $30,000 in buying power,
Right.
depending on what their interest rate is. So basically, the person who wanted to buy a house for 300, now they're settling on 275. And in some markets, that could be the difference of one less bedroom, one less bathroom, a small, and that's huge for some people because there are people that buy houses, Mike, that don't have the funds afterwards to do the rehab. They're save just to buy the house. And I hate to say it, there are people that they really do have visions of grandeur of what they want and what they can visualize, and now it's being taken away from them. But
Yeah.
here's the thing, they're still better off buying versus renting, because when they're renting, all they're doing is paying somebody else's mortgage.
Herb, do you still take all your clients to Gibson's after they close on the house?
No, but here's one of the things that I do. I love you, Mike. Matter of fact, I think just for that, I'm going to make you buy me dinner at Gibson's.
Okay, when are we going?
Put it on the calendar, baby. No,
Okay.
seriously though, I think one of the biggest assets to me is I don't just sell somebody a property, I'm available to them every day. I'm going to counsel them once a year where the rents are, where they're going. I don't sell them a property and forget them. They are my clients for life. I stay in touch with them. If I write their lease, I'm calling them 3 months ahead of time saying, hey, it's time to reach out to your client. The lease expires in 3 months. Here's the current rents. If they're going to stay, maybe give them a bargain. If they're paying $2,000, first question I'm going to ask you, Mike, have they paid you on time for the last 3 years? Do you want to keep them? If the answer is yes, okay, here's the current rents, but to keep them, why don't you, instead of going up $75, go up $40, because you're obviously not going to have any costs in flipping it if they stay in there, so it's going to save you thousands of dollars.
Yeah. It's easier to get $25, $30 a month than it is to get 70. So that makes sense. Hey, Herb.
There are ways to get 70 though. And I have a script for that I give my clients that allows them to get more than the average.
Nice. So if people want to get a hold of that script, or they want to talk to you about investing or the real estate market right now or anything else, how do they do that, Herb?
They can give me a call at 847-347-8304. They
Perfect.
can email me at herbert.strauss, Straus, at gmail.com. Like I said, they can call me, they can email me. If texting is easier for you, shoot me a text. My number's on the screen, 847-347-8304. And put what your question is, text me, put your name, and I'll respond.
Nice. Hey, Herb, always a pleasure to be with you.
Mike, thanks for having me today. I'm going to call you for that Gibson's dinner.
Well, there is a McDonald's right across the street from Gibson's. Can we go there?
I'll tell you what, we'll split the difference on something in the middle.
Love you, Herb. Hey, listen, anybody, I'm going to move you out into the green room, say goodbye to everybody, and then spend a couple minutes with me, okay?
I will do that. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. Hey, everybody, there we have it. A little bit of insight in the Chicago market, the northwest suburbs of Chicago, some things about investors and where the market is going, a little bit about inflation. If you didn't get a chance to listen to this whole thing, rewind it. We talked about inflation. We talked about supply and demand. We talked about where the market's going, rent increases, and maybe what to look for. So here's what I would say. If you are a passive investor and you are looking for some type of passive investments in the multifamily space, in the residential space, we make it simple for you. Give me a call, send me a message. If you're looking for, this month we have a number of events coming up. I talked about it early on if you missed that part, but on March 3rd at 7 p.m., we're doing a webinar on passive investing, the difference between active and passive investing, what to look for, how to vet a deal, how to vet a sponsor. We'll walk you through some different fundamentals around that. That's a 30-minute webinar, and then we'll have some Q&A at the end. So if you are a passive investor, like to take part in that, please join us. March 24th, I am doing a full-day boot camp on multifamily fundamentals. and how those multifamily fundamentals help you build your business. And then also March 8th, my staff, my team around me have gone and put together a free event for Women's Day, and love for you to partake. Hey, whether you're a male or a female, I think the information is going to be good. Definitely the guests are going to be great. Two friends of mine that'll be speaking about being an entrepreneur in real estate, how that works, being a single mom. So there's going to be a lot going on. I look forward to you being there for that event. If anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to direct message me or Diana. Diana's at admin@mycoreintentions.com, and she can always get a message to me as well. Also, if you are looking for some ebooks to read, some books to read, you can go download my book Exit Plan. You can go to My Core Intent, or if you're looking for a multifamily fundamentals ebook, a short book, just kind of give you some highlights and some roundness around the industry, you can go there and download that also. And then one last ebook will be 27 questions to ask a sponsor about a sponsor and about the deal. So kind of give you some insight, some information about passive investing. Hey, everybody, thanks for being here. We're here every Thursday morning. Look forward to seeing you all next week, and have a great week, everybody.